Hey guys, happy holidays. Before we start this episode, we wanted to dive into an awesome project that the Unknown Paranormal is doing this holiday season to bring some Christmas cheer to their community. Right now until December 21st, 2023, they are collecting donations to help make Christmas extra special for families in need. If you would like to donate or find out any more information, make sure to check the episode description or head over to our Instagram. We want to let you guys know that we appreciate you guys listening and hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season. Now let's dive into this episode.
Welcome to the podcast. We talk about all the things that are hidden in the shadows. This is Isaac.
And this is Megan.
And on this, again, long-awaited episode. We're going to stop saying that shit because we're never going to give you a definitive time when this is going to come out because we always have stuff coming up. So you get it when you get it.
Yeah.
But we have a few announcements to start this off before we get into the episode, which is, I say anticipated for me, but the idea came to me later, but I'll explain why. Anyway, announcements. I know we're in the month of December.
Which is rounding out close to 2024.
We're going to have a lot of new things next year.
Yes.
New music, new intro music, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But new things to add to the podcast themselves. We're kind of giving a whole revamp of the way it sounds. Now, the platform is always going to be the same because it's me and you. But we thought about, I don't know, giving more of an entertainment factor to everything. But also, one major thing is new intro music and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I think how we do the intro is it's going to be a little bit different.
Yes,
than what we have been, and that's just strictly because we've been doing this for like 3 years now.
Yeah,
kind of like I think it's always good to do kind of not a rebrand, but like a refresh of what we've kind of learned over the years and kind of where we want to go. Because obviously, learning and growing and learning new things and stuff, sometimes causes for a different vibe. And I think we're definitely at a different point now than we were when we first started. So it would make sense.
Also,
we are doing something brand spanking, I guess, new, different in 2024. So we haven't actually gotten the official advertisements for it yet, so we haven't posted on our social media, but we thought this would be a good spot to announce it, to say it. But we are pairing with a local restaurant to do a live podcast episode and a meet and greet, place called Pizza Bones. And it's basically, they have an arcade, they have live music sometimes, live events, and then they have awesome food, and it's pizza and stuff like that. And in February, I believe they gave us a date, but it's not 100. I don't know if it's 100% set in stone. But in February of 2024, we will be doing
a live podcast from their stage.
Yeah, so it'll be 2 different episodes, and then a meet and greet and a Q&A and stuff like that. So a lot of stuff, and merch will be there too.
So if you're not doing anything in February,
and you're local to us,
well, if you want to make the trip, I would say so. But if you want to head our way, North Carolina, there's a chance for you, whoever's a good listener, to meet us in person and ask us whatever question you want, because there's going to be a whole hour dedicated to that.
Yeah.
Anything on ideas that you have for anything surrounding the paranormal or supernatural. But yeah, we were invited to do it because the owner of Pizza Bones is a big fan. So he asked us, and we were like, we never thought about doing it that, but so this is our first time experience with it. So, and we've done a live podcast from haunted locations before, but no one knew we were there. But this is the first time you actually know exactly where we are and can be part of it, because it's going to be a little, we call it unconventional. style podcast of ours.
Yeah.
Because we are going to involve the crowd. I mean, you can't really hear them, so if there is a crowd, it might be just people we know.
I never know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll have more information on it in the next several episodes leading up to it, possibly even a commercial for it, so we just play that instead of having to talk about it every single episode.
Yeah. And obviously more stuff on our social media about it as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So look forward to those things.
But that's just like a good preview of 2024 for us. We're trying to branch out of our comfort zone and do new things and really put, like, I guess, our stuff to the test in a sense.
I'm fine on stage. You're the one that has a problem with it.
This is a huge out of my comfort zone thing for me because
everybody looking at you.
Oh my gosh. But I feel like I got it. I feel like I've learned a lot over the 3 years with talking and with the podcast and stuff like that, like, I should be able to do it. Actually, I'm not going to say should. I am going to be able to do it. So, yeah.
Yes. And, well, no and. I said let's get to it then. Sorry, I was trying to say a word so I didn't burp.
Oh my gosh. I always tell him, like, do his burping and farting beforehand when he's running his weird
I don't control
exercises.
when it happens. Anyway.
Sometimes I think you do, but...
Oh, if I had that skill. If I had that skill.
Oh my gosh. He was really clearing aisles in the supermarket the other day. Clearing aisles. Poor old people that were running through his wall of hate. Oh my gosh. Oh my god, what does that smell?
It smells like death. On to today's episode. This idea came to me because I always wondered about it, but the question people always ask, why are spirits always from like colonial times or like, you know, like a long time ago in the West or something, which is not 100% true because we've met spirits who were like 1980s, 1990s, even 2000s. So it's not like they're always there, but the majority of the people who died a lot in certain areas were from a period of time where dying was a lot simpler than it is now, right? From any kind of illness. So you had a lot more death a long time ago. But I always had the idea, what was the first haunting then? When did people start actually acknowledging ghosts and spirits and stuff like that? And that gave me an idea. How long ago, I mean, you think about ancient times, what was the most ancient haunting ever? I've been learning a lot about ancient history when it comes to the earliest civilizations, i.e. like the Mesopotamia era, with the Sumerians, and with the Egyptian era and stuff like that, and just learning as much as I can about the history of humankind and stuff like that, well, for my own interest, but also for a lot of information as well. But I come to find out a lot of stuff involving, let's say, the earliest civilization ever. Well, to us anyway. It might be something older than them, who knows. But so far, the oldest recorded civilization, the Mesopotamians, had tales and stories of stuff that seemed like everything, it seemed like they influenced everyone else. Like they were the OGs. And everything else that came after was influenced by that.
Well, speaking of which, he is normally the one that, like he said, dives into this kind of stuff. I just don't. I don't know why. I just normally just don't. And I found this website. It's called ancientorigins.net. And I was telling him he's got to check it out because it's almost like those sites where like anybody can contribute an article, except instead of anybody can contribute an article, it's strictly people that have historian backgrounds, archaeology backgrounds. Like you have to have a specific background to be able to write articles for this website. And there are people that dive into the paranormal side of things, and they only talk about like ancient civilizations, like the ancient Greeks, ancient Egyptians, Mesopotamia, like all of the ancient civilizations. And I went down some sort of crazy rabbit hole, especially with the Mesopotamia civilization, on the paranormal and different locations that have been haunted for a long time.
Yes, so I tried to find what was the first earliest time of paranormal investigating of any kind.
Yeah.
And we have to go back about 2,000 years before that. 4,000 years. Because you want to do the math. 2,000 years ago was 0, right? And 2,000 years before that was 2000 BC. So technically 4,000 years ago. Well, no one ever accounts that. They say 2,000 years ago, like, 0, right? No, 2,000 years before that. So technically 4,000 years. The time of ancient Greece. A man named Athenodorus Canaanites. Yeah. It makes me wonder if he was a descendant of Canaanites.
Now it's your turn to...
It's a freaking Greek name. Anyway. He was a Stoic philosopher and teacher of Caesar Augustus, whose ghostly tale was recorded for, not prosperity, but I guess for lessons, in a Roman letter written by a guy named Pliny the Younger. His name, Pliny the Younger.
Wow.
Anyway. Pliny, Pliny, like pony with an I. Plony. I'm looking at you.
Give me a weird smirk.
Yeah. States that there was a large house in Athens. I guess this is where he gets his name. With an unsavory, unhealthy reputation. So I guess a lot of bad things happened there. The sound of what appeared to be weapons clashing, chains clanking. You know, the old tale of, ooh, excuse me.
Oh my god.
That burp escaped my words as I was speaking.
Oh my gosh.
Luckily it was from the attic and not the basement. Anyway.
One episode without a burp or a fart would be nice.
It's not going to happen. Especially ones you rip all the time.
Oh.
Anyway, chains clanking, and it could be heard all night, emanating within the house. This phenomenon was soon followed by the spectral appearance of a old man with scraggly hair, so like an old man ghost. This is where you can imagine, I guess, the effect, of all people who live there. So a lot of people are like, I can't stay here, it's ghosts and shit. So they basically just, left it. With Athenodorus, the philosopher, arrived in Athens, he saw the house for sale. And reading the posted bill, he discovered it the dwelling's price. He was like, why is it so cheap for a house this nice? Because it was haunted. Right? No one wants to live there, so they had to sell it for cheap. So what he did, he was eager to buy the house, but also he wanted to find out why this place was haunted. No one held back the house's horrific reputation, but the philosopher was not at least put off. So he was like, I'm not fucking scared of this place. Right?
Yeah.
And he was eager to take the place. So, one evening, he had a couch prepared, set in the front section of the house, so I guess we can lay down. He asked for a torch, a stylus, and a writing table, and then he dismissed everyone else, like, get out of here, I'm going to do this. And to keep his mind from being distracted from imaginary noises and apparitions, he decided to dedicate all his energy toward his writing. What does that sound like?
Automatic writing.
Automatic writing, yes.
Holy
this
moly.
This is in the year 2000 BCE. And him, a philosopher, Stoic philosopher, decided to do automatic writing.
And see, that's the thing that blows my mind. Like some of the stuff that I'm going to share that I have gotten from that Ancient Origins website and like just looking up different things is the fact that, like when we start thinking about paranormal investigating and paranormal in general, we always, like, I know I always go to like the 70s, the 60s, the 50s when a lot of this stuff is taken off, but they've been trying to get answers to all of this stuff so long ago that, and some of the practices that they did are similar to what we do now.
Yes, and we have theories about that, but
yes,
for later. So the first night, or at first, the night was silent. Then came the rattling chains, and Athonius, I'm going to call him Athenodorus, neither lifted up his eyes nor laid down his pen. So he basically just said, he was like, I'm not looking. But the noises increased and seemed to grow closer and closer until eventually they seemed to be like literally right on him. So Athonius looked up and saw the apparition exactly as people described it, an old man with chains stood before him, beckoning with a finger, like, come here, come here. Showing what seems like a remarkable amount of stoicism, Athonius made a sign with his hand that the specter should wait a little, and then bent over his work once more. The ghost, however, had no ideas and shook his chains like, hey, pay attention to me. And the philosopher's head and beckoned him as before. So, anyway, Thonius now looked up from his torch and followed the spectral man, see what the hell he wants. The ghost moved slowly as if it held by the chain. So like he was weighing, he was dragging himself with the heaviness of the chains. Once it reached an open area in the house, the courtyard, the backyard, I guess, the ghost disappeared. Anthonius grabbed a handful of grass and leaves and placed it on the spot where the ghost had vanished. The next day, Anthonius called the magistrate in his official capacity, and he had him dug up the spot that he marked with all the debris, right? Because there's got to be something here. Otherwise, the ghost told me to come to this spot. Mm-hmm. They found the bones that were all that remained of the long buried, which had been bound and changed body. Carefully, they collected the skeletal relics and gave them a proper burial. The tortured soul was now at rest, and the house in Athens is now peaceful once more.
Whoa.
Never said anybody's automatic writing, though.
Like what he got, yeah.
Yeah.
But that...
So that is an age-old tale, right? That this philosopher wanted to either prove that the ghosts weren't real, or at least find out why this guy was haunting the location. And what do we always say about the whole unfinished business, or they're not at rest because their bodies were thrown away, or something like that? That goes with a long tale of a lot of things from the past. If people aren't buried properly, their spirit is stuck here, and they want to communicate, hey, I'm not going to able to cross over until you do something. That goes back to even ancient tales. For example, with the Odyssey, something I actually listened to recently, one of the men who died by getting drunk and fell off a cliff was haunting Odysseus, basically saying, I can't move over until you bury my body properly. And even, I forget the other ancient tales I was listening to.
So I wonder if that kind of goes too with people that are murdered.
Well, that's essentially, it's a violent act that their energy gets stuck behind. Sometimes when people are murdered in such a violent way or die so instantly that they don't know they're dead. And people who are murdered are obviously angry at the fact that they died or upset, so they're still behind. And
then too, if, for instance, if somebody is murdered, they're not buried properly. They're buried, but they're not buried properly. They're buried so that somebody can't find them versus intentionally. Because a lot of I know from me, like researching, I was able to find is that a lot of these ancient civilizations, like they really prided themselves on helping the afterlife cross over. Like I didn't realize that, and it made me open my eyes a lot to like past civilizations and stuff like that, because spiritualism back then was so, I guess, like pre-Christianity kind of. It was so like a normal everyday thing for everybody. Like it like appeasing spirits and helping them cross over to the other side. That was something that they regularly did. They gave offerings to loved ones that, passed over and stuff like that. So it's so interesting.
Something else I found out with ancient stuff. This is not maybe a haunted thing, but it's more of an interesting thing of time. Oh, by the way, that story that I just read for you guys, I got it from a website called Soul-esque. So I thought I'd shout them out. But supposedly, there was a 3,500-year-old Babylonian tablet that may contain the earliest known depiction of a ghost. This is what I really wanted to talk about more than anything. A tablet they made that was made in ancient Babylon about 1500 BC, or possibly even earlier. Now, this is either depicted before ancient Egypt, around the time of the Babylonians, or right after Mesopotamia. But it's the earliest description known of a ghost out there. The clay tablet is a guide also to exorcisms.
This is where I completely was blown away when I started researching about this.
Yeah, because when I found out about that, I was like, whoa. So there was a tablet used at the end of the Mesopotamian era, the beginning of the Babylon era, right? That had depictions of how to perform exorcisms of spirits. Long before the name Christ was even muttered into existence. Before the Judaic faith was even around and stuff like that. This idea of exorcism existed a long time ago. So, that got me thinking. That's the whole premise of I want to do this episode, is ancient form of haunting. So they were dealing with stuff like that, thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah. Well, one thing that blew my mind too was going back to this like exorcism stuff. In Mesopotamia, they had temple schools, right? And they have said that they believe that this was like our basic forms of like medical schools for people that wanted to learn about like medicine and stuff that they were able to excel in, basically. But there was schools that taught exorcisms. And the temple priest, right, produced textbooks to train up and coming, essentially, exorcists. So there was an article that I read on the ancient origins that kind of goes into this, and I'm just going to kind of like summarize it a little bit. But they basically said in the temple schools in Mesopotamia, students learned exorcism rituals, how to mix healing atonements, perform astrology, and how to cure demonic possession. They even train their students. So in these temple schools, they train their students on law, ethics, medical billing, and accounting type situations, which is, I thought that was so crazy that was even around back then. Obviously not like how we would medical billing in today's society, but like how medicine and stuff like that. But they would put exorcism in the same kind of realm as like the medical schools, which I thought was crazy. But back then in a lot of those civilizations, they thought spiritual health was the same as regular health. Like you can get sick and have illnesses from being demonically possessed. So thanks to the record keeping of the Sumerians, archaeologists were able to study their early medical knowledge and religious beliefs. Scholars have found that the Sumerians believed certain spirits caused specific diseases and that spirit entities could enter the body through the patient's head. It was important for the priest, like in their civilization, to know the name of the entity so that he could prescribe the right treatment. It was thought that the names of the demons were the names of the diseases. For instance, one tablet refers to the practice of rubbing someone's head with butter and milk so they can be cleansed of the head disease of heaven. Possessions in Mesopotamia were not limited to diseases of the head. Symptoms of demonic possession could be felt throughout the entire body. According to another tablet, symptoms of demonic possession can begin in the muscles of the body. The possessed patient could have fever and chills, as well as intestinal problems, pain in the abdomen that radiates to the back, as well as chest pain. In this case, the demon did not attack the head. However, the treatment called for purifying the patient with water, then wrapping his head with a bandage and juniper leaves. He must leave the bandage on for 1 full day and discard it, and then this method supposedly drew the demon out of the patient's skull.
Yeah. Which I've always said, when you start studying not just demonology, but demons from all forms of all cultures around the world, the creature, the demon, has existed in all faiths and all cultures around the entire planet. Mm-hmm. Not just entirely isolated just to the Christian faith. So that leads you to believe that ancient civilizations were dealing with them long before the from priests of the Christian faith were around.
Yeah. And the fact that there's similarities there that I find very interesting because, you know, I know with me, I thought like the Catholic Church, that they were the ones that kind of like founded all this stuff in terms of exorcisms and stuff like that. But no, it goes way back.
Yeah.
Way back. And from reading what I read, it almost sounds like somewhere along the way, and it could just, I don't know, maybe the fact that different religions over time are being forced almost. It almost seems like they were a little bit more spiritually knowledgeable in terms of like how to handle dark stuff than maybe we are today. I don't know how to explain it that way where it doesn't sound weird. But like,
no, you were talking about me before we recorded. You're basically asking me like, why do we see more backwards when it comes to the supernatural and the spiritual side of everything versus how ancient civilizations back then seemed to be more in tune with everything and took it seriously. And the simple answer is because the evolution of science and technology took over that rational thinking of mind. And those who weren't taking science and technology seriously were considered irrational. So if you were believing anything about the supernatural could be real, or using this or using that to conjure out spirits and stuff like that, that science and technology couldn't prove, it didn't exist. If it didn't exist, you were crazy. You were insane. You were a person who should not be around intelligible people. And also it didn't help that a lot of charlatans out there use the essence of supernatural to con people out of a lot of stuff and a lot of things. Oh, there's ghosts in your house. If you pay me this every money, I'll get rid of it for you. Yeah. So that ruined the imagery of people that heavily in the supernatural. I always theorize that the spiritual realm is a form, well, access to it in the way that the ancients had it is a form of advanced technology that has been lost or forgotten or basically discarded. Because if we think the ancient civilizations were technology, was it not handicapped, but they didn't have it all together the same way we do now, it's the complete opposite. They had it far more than us. They probably use an endless amount of energy source from a place, say the fourth dimension or the ether, that they could use to their will, moving heavy objects, accessing information, all this stuff, transporting stuff along that we saw as crazy and insane, and they're savages or something like that. They can't have this level of technology and stuff like that. There's no way they did it. The aliens had to help. That's been our excuse for everything. Aliens had to help. Aliens have had to help. There's no way they could have done this on their own. Yes, they did, because they had access to technology that we disregard. And that's why I always said my hope for the future is that the scientific community takes the supernatural seriously to a point that they want to study it and invent technology in order to record it and image it, as well as anything else that we do.
Yeah. It's
just a field of science that's yet to be discovered. If you, an electrical engineer and we call it a mechanical engineer, will travel back to, say, 1100 and try to explain electricity to people, they would see you as insane. They have no idea what you're talking about. It's the same way the supernatural is now. Now, there's people out there, psychics and people like us, who have an access to the the ether, right? More so than anyone else. It's almost like a natural form of connection to it. A old form of technology that's still embedded in our blood system. Like it was coded there. And that goes into the conspiracy theory of how humanity was created, or an alien species. Who knows? We can go down that rabbit hole. But I always wanted to know the paranormal investigation world wasn't, created on a whim, but wasn't created within the time of America, within, like, say, the last 300 years. There's no way. And people think, well, all the spirits that are the ghosts now obviously died a long time ago. Well, who died before them? You think 2,000 years before then, you had Mesopotamia, you had wars. People who died in, say, the Greek era and something like that, their ghosts are still around. I don't know if they're still around. I haven't been to those areas. But you think the oldest people on this continent, right, in America, just this country alone, 300-400 years max. Granted, you have Native American spirits and people who passed away spread across the entire country. But the concentration majority of the death that happened here is in the South, in the East, and the West. Of all, especially where we live, right? All the Civil War and the Revolutionary War all happened in this state.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of dead bodies here. A lot of people died in just our state alone. Because we're in the original 13 colonies. And then if you go to the South, consistent killings of slaves, of Native Americans and stuff like that, there is a lot of death in concentrated areas of the country. And of course, it's scattered throughout the United States. But the concentration of it has been here. Mm-hmm. And you go to countries that are older, right? That have long history of war, of death, of all this stuff happening. Take England, for example, with the ancient Ram Inn, right? Long line of stuff that's happened at that home, particularly, and on that property. Hence why it gets its name. But did you find what the oldest American paranormal investigation was?
Yes. Yeah, so apparently the first documented paranormal investigation in America was believed to have taken place in 1848 in Hinesville, New York. The investigation was centered around the alleged haunting of the Fox family, particularly the two young daughters, Margarita and Kate Fox. The family came to have experienced strange phenomena, including mysterious knocking sounds and communication with the spirit through a series of raps. The investigation was led by a group of prominent individuals, including a local doctor, a lawyer. They conducted various experiments and observations to determine the source of the phenomena. They eventually concluded that the girls were indeed communicating with the spirit, in which they referred to as Mr. Splitfoot or the Peddler, which is kind of like a creepy name to it. The investigation gained significant attention and sparked a widespread interest in spiritualism that gained popularity in the 19th century, kind of when that whole like communication with the spirits of the deceased and seances and all of that kind of thing took place. But yeah.
Well, you want to know when I was looking for like the oldest demons within history, right? Long before the devil or Satan or any of that was even mentioned. There was Lamashtu, later to be known as Lilith, the mother of demons, right? Also, supposedly, she kind of was the original succubus too. Yeah, supposedly she would take the sperm of men through sexual acts, either the wet dreams or something like that, and use that to give birth to demons.
Wow.
Yeah. Lamashtu is her Mesopotamia name. So, goes back way back there.
Well, when I was researching about Mesopotamia, too, the one thing that they kept... Because I want to say, I think the name is... what is it? Z-U-Z-U?
Pazuzu?
Yeah. Isn't that a demonic name?
I think so. I think it was a demon.
Because that's what they were talking about with the Mesopotamia.
Yeah. It was also the demon that was in The Exorcist. Because I'm wearing that shirt.
Yeah. Gosh. I knew it. Oh my God. I fail as a freaking horror enthusiast. I don't know.
I'm wearing
why.
the shirt.
I knew it from somewhere, but I was like, because I was confusing that one with the one that comes through with the Ouija board. Which I don't know why I'm not scared to say the names, but I just don't. I don't know if people get freaked out.
All the shit we've done.
I know, but I just don't know if somebody listening is like, I don't want to hear the name.
Well, I don't have to worry about nothing.
So
not with us anyway.
Yeah. So if yeah, but yeah, I thought that was interesting because I was like, dang, and there was a lot of ones. I think we might even talk about, because we were talking about doing an episode on different entities and then also on demonic entities as well. And because there's a lot of them that like I've never even heard of that were talked about in different ancient civilizations. So
yeah, we get to talk about the ones that names have changed over time. Like originally back then, but then their names changed till what they are now, right? How different societies and different civilizations took root with them or decided to adopt them into their horror stories.
Yeah, I think... Oh, I didn't even talk about the cave. Okay, so there's a cave. So I also wanted to find some... I've been on the hunt for trying to find new areas that haven't been talked about a lot in the paranormal community. Like, you hear the Ancient Ram and you hear all of these different spots and you consistently hear them, you know, like all over the place. But I was like, there's got to be more spots that have worse, like, bad things. It can't just be these ones, you know, like you hear the Conjuring house, the everything. There's got to be more than just what we know, and especially older ones. Well, apparently there's this cave called the Pentelli Cave, and it's got an interesting backstory and an interesting like haunted activity. So Mount these names.
We're not good out loud readers.
Pentecoleus, which is a mountain near Athens, Greece, has been an important area for thousands of years. It's basically the location of an ancient quarry, which is from blah, 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 from which marble was cut out to build the Parthenon, and other great structures in the city of Athens during its gold age. So it's also been called Davlius Cave, or the Pentali Cave is more commonly known as a cave hidden by pine forest. At the back of the 60 meters long and 20 meters high cave is a network of tunnels, one of which leads to an underground pond. Another tunnel, according to different stories, leads to hell. Although the cave does not look too mysterious from the outside, the cave has been the location of many strange events, such as shadow-like apparitions, ghosts, UFOs, and other paranormal entities. According to the article from Ancient Origins, the cave has been considered an otherworldly place since a long time. Since ancient times. In ancient times, it was a sacred site to the nature god Pan and his nymphs, a place known as the... Oh, good night. They did not think of Megan when they wrote this article. The Pan-I-Palon. Artifacts have been found in the cave depicting the god. Different things have been cut into the walls, and there's an alcove with a pool of water for some unknown purpose. After the arrival of Christianity, it was a place of spiritual... Even then, it was a place of spiritual significance, and was used as a hideout for Christians, and solitary for monks, a solitary area for monks. According to some accounts, the church at the entrance to the cave was built in the 11th century. It was built as two connected chapels. Within one of the chapels, some unusual glyphs which had been attributed to the monks that used the area. The unusual design of the church had been led to speculation that the church was actually built very early in Christian history. And during the 19th century, the cave also gained notoriety. It used to be a base by Davalis, who was an infamous outlaw who was known for stealing from the wealthy. It is claimed that he had an affair with a French noblewoman who happened to live nearby during that time, and that's why it started changing the name to the Davalis Cave. Always been a strange site of creepy phenomena. People would hear mysterious voices coming from the far corridors of the cave. Some people would also hear music that didn't appear to have a source. And the fact that it was an isolated mountain slope and there was like an ominous pine forest also kind of gave some creepy vibes to it. However, in the 1960s and 70s, paranormal investigators gained an interest in the cave and began looking into it. By the mid-20th century, UFO sightings had also been added to the strange stories associated from the cave. One of the main investigators was a name named George Bolanos. The investigation continued for years without progress. These investigations were hindered by malfunctions in technological devices such as cameras and flashlights, as well as particular behavior imprinted onto the investigators. So like they would start to investigate, their equipment would start going crazy, even the flashlights, and then obviously the behavior of the different investigators started to change. But apparently in 1977, a group of workers and technicians claiming to be from an unknown organization put up barbed wire around the cave and began to work on the cave with dynamite and bulldozers. When people tried to go into the cave, they would be turned away by guards posted by the organizations. It was just government involvement. So we have that over here. Obviously, there's certain sites that, like government supposedly got involved in, and we can't go and we can't see what's in there. Well, that's a place that's similar in Greece. But the crazy thing is the fact that it goes back so long. One story in particular that they tell in this article is a couple going on a hike discovered a car perched on a ledge near the cave in a location which seemed impossible for a car to reach. They came back several times over the next several days, and the car was still there. Finally, they went up to the car and found that oddly the car did not have any marks of damage expected of a car driven to the position where it was. When the wife looked into some bushes around the car, she started to scream hysterically. When the husband calmed her down, she said that she had seen a white oval-faced shaped creature that was about 24 inches long with two enormous glowing eyes. The husband did not see the creature, but he did see the brushes rustle as if the animal had just moved through them. Days later, the husband also saw something that appeared to be a spinning black sphere outside his car window, which caused him to start screaming and shaking until his wife was able to calm him down. There's some weirdness going on at the cave. But yeah, so that cave, if we ever go to Greece, would be interesting too.
A lot of places in old-timey days that I want to go to see how we favor against them, or at least what we can sense and feel.
Yeah. And it's crazy because like they're talking about 11th century, right? And you're still getting stuff now, even to this day. So the fact that it's that long of a period that there's like paranormal stories and stuff, it's mind-blowing because that's a lot of freaking years, you know?
Anyway, you don't think about how long that distance is. You think about 100 years ago, right? 100 years ago from today, 1923. No cell phones, barely electricity. Well, not barely electricity. They had electricity, but it wasn't like everyone had it. Even poor people who barely have a pot to piss in have electricity. 1923, upper class and the rich, majority had electricity. Sometimes if you were renting an apartment somewhere, they gave you electricity. But other than that, people in the rural area, no electricity. That was 100 years ago. 100. 200 years ago. 1823. That's 23 years after, actually not more than that, about 40 years after the Revolutionary War. This took place 4,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And there was spirits, the hauntings, the energy is still there. So, in 4,000 years from now, your ghost, right, could still be here.
That's scary, Isaac.
I was saying ours,
yeah.
right? Most likely we just come back around again like we have been doing.
Oh my gosh.
But it's the idea of ancient hauntings and how they still exist now. And there's some theory about the waiting time for spirits. Like if you're here too long, you basically get automatically moved if you don't finish up what you're trying to do. Like your unfinished business doesn't get finished. You have you're a timetable. Like, hey, you got 1,000 years. Get it, figure it out. Right? If not too bad. I don't know if that's the truth or not. It just, a lot of people, most death is concentrated to certain places.
Mm-hmm. And I think an important thing that I always talk about in other episodes is that, you know, like for instance, us with the park, right? It's a park, right? It's been a park since the 1980s. But just because it's a park now doesn't mean that that land wasn't something else or didn't have an event that happened hundreds of years ago. And I think that's why it's important, if you're getting a feeling or a pull to go to a spot, there might be something there, even though it seems like it wouldn't be, you know? And I think doing this episode is also important because it covers that. Because, you know, somebody walking past the cave, right, could say, oh, it's just a cave and a random forest, right? But doesn't know the significance of, like, the ghost stories that were told all the way back to even the 11th century. You know? So I think as investigators, you know, you might say, oh, well, you know, it's like a strip mall or it's an empty parking lot now, but it may have not been hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
You know? So to keep that in mind, and if something was stuck from there 100 years ago, it would still be stuck there now. So I think that's an important thing to look at when, you know, you're looking at locations to investigate as well.
Well, I think wraps us up here today.
Yeah.
What did we talk about next time?
So next time is
the Cheshire Demon.
Yeah. So this is, I don't think it's actually a report. Is it in a book or like anything written down that there's this thing exists?
I don't know.
And that's what we're going to find out,
yes.
probably.
But we've encountered, of all the home cases and all the things we've encountered in our time doing what we do, all right, we've encountered a lot of different creatures, which it might, the premise is about what we classify as the Cheshire demon, but we might throw in also other kinds of demons we've encountered as well.
Because I think, so when you, different horror movies actually covered this, but like the weird smile thing where it's not a smile, it's an uncomfortable like grin. I've seen things even when I was a kid that look like that. And doing, like Isaac said, some home cases, we've seen some things that look like that. And I think there's more to it than just, you know, like the big stone burly looking like horn things.
The gargoyle looking kind of demon, or the giant hooves with horns and big black, and like it's like almost like black inked, not black skinned, almost like it's covered in black ink or oil for skin, and have hair and stuff like that. They don't all look like that. We encounter a lot that look like different kinds of things, which we'll talk about in the episode. I don't give anything away.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's what we talk about next week.
Yes.
Bonus episodes. Oh yes. I just thought in that. Catch me on where the weird ones are.
December 8th.
December 8th. I'm trying to think of the date.
Yeah.
December 8th. Catch my interview I did. Well, I talk about my youth. But yes, December 8th, catch me on Where the Weird Ones Are, where we talk about all the stuff that happened to me on the ranch when I was a kid. And here, host Kevin's, what we called his what's the word I'm looking for?
His what?
Reaction. Why did they escape my head?
Yeah. And you talk about gnomes, right?
Oh, the gnome that I saw.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I don't know why. In the episode title that he did, there's no place like home with Isaac.
Which is like, that's like a small piece of the whole damn episode. Anyway. Yeah. But yeah, go listen to that. You hear me on another podcast. So. Yeah. But we have a few ideas of bonus episodes lined up, but we haven't recorded them yet.
Yeah. So the one I think with my grandmother is coming, and then a possible one with the Unknown Paranormal team and Mike G. That was on a round table.
Riley Bennett is paranormal? What team is he part of? He had a team. I don't think he's part of that team anymore.
No, I think he's also... Mike G is part of...
Mike Gale. We call him Mike G because we know a lot of Mikes.
Yeah. But Mike G is part of I EVP'd My Pants podcast.
Yes.
And then he does like readings and stuff, but then I think he also goes out like as himself.
Yeah.
As an investigator. So
we thought about putting that together. But yeah, so we got a lot of ideas coming hopefully by the end of this month, and a lot of new stuff for next year.
Yeah.
But as always, guys, you can catch our social medias at Hidden in the Shadows Podcast on Instagram, Hidden in the Sha 6 on X, Hidden in the Shadows Podcast 2 on TikTok, or links to all our social media, and always listen to us at hiddenshadowspodcast.com. Also, if you need help with anything paranormal related or things of the supernatural, advice, or help getting rid of stuff, you can message us at Hidden Shadows Podcast or on our paranormal page, Hidden Shadows Paranormal. But yeah, as always, guys, catch your widows in the next one.
Yup.
This month